What up, Dokkaners? Welcome back to Tsunami for another video on Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle. I am joined by the Masked Ningen himself. The Masked Ningen. What's up, man? How you doing? How you doing?
Yo, how's it going, everybody? I'm doing good. Excited to talk more about heroes.
Look, I'm gonna keep saying this. I've said this for months. I've said this for a year, and I'm gonna bring it up again. We are the two guys that predicted Super Saiyan 4 Broly, Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta were going to be coming on the next Dragon Ball Heroes banner. We are right. It is just around the corner. We're going to be having a Dokkan Now coming up. So before that happens, we got to talk about some more Dragon Ball Heroes stuff. So on part 1, over on Masked Ningen's channel, we talk about a lot of the, well, I guess half of the units that have yet to have some sort of TUR, some sort of awakenings. So we go over each unit's build and what they're going to be like afterwards, potentially. So check out part 1, link will be in the description. And now we're going to be taking a look at the other units, mainly the super side. Some of the units that have not had TURs yet, and we're going to go over each one and see what they're going to be like. Starting with the Entrusted Fusion Fighter, Gohanks. It is Gohanks, not Gohanks. Trust me, it's Gohan and it's Trunks. Gohanks. Alright?
Yep.
Alright. So, this unit, I know Masked Ningen particularly has a lot of rapport with, because I'm pretty sure this is one of the two fusions that helped you get the no item run on fusions, right? For the first time?
Yeah, so this guy and the Xeno Gotenks I used on the Fusion no items run, because they are both very, very good units.
So just imagine what they're going to be like with the TUR, but we'll start off by reading the build for this guy. Super Int, Ki plus 370% across the board, Supreme Damage, and Seals. And then for the passive, attack and defense plus 70, plus an additional attack and defense plus 20, with each super attack performed up to 80, and launches an additional super attack when the target enemy is in attack down status. So obviously, direct, you know, the first thing you think of when you see the attack down status, you would quickly switch over to the Gotenks and see that he lowers attack and defense. So these two work hand in hand, and when they work hand in hand, they're very powerful. So what could they possibly do to make this guy even more I don't know, self-sufficient or self-reliant when getting that TUR?
So that's the thing, right? Like, one of the reasons why I'm excited about the potential awakenings for him and the Gotenks is because they don't even need them. Like, they're so good already. Like, just giving them TUR stats will obviously already make them much better. The only thing I could think of that they can really do to improve is they could, I guess, improve the base attack and defense that they start from. And then potentially, even if they kept it as attack and defense 20% with each super, maybe they could bump it up to like 100%, so they get an extra stack on top. But yeah, other than that, there's not a lot that they really need to do. I can't see, because they have special effects on their super attacks already. Obviously, Gohanks Seals. He's probably not going to get like immense damage, but I mean, that's not what he's there for. He's not there to be a damage dealer. Obviously, he gets that guaranteed additional when the enemy's in attack down. So if you give him some decent additional to build up that passive quickly, he can potentially super attack 3 times in one turn. So he doesn't necessarily need to be hitting crazy hard with each single attack. And then, like you said, not only does he work well with the fact that the Gotenks lowers attack, but one of the reasons why he worked so well on the Super Battle Road run is, of course, one of the units that you would probably be bringing along is the Tech Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, who lowers the enemy's attack with his passive. So just by being on the same turn with him, this guy's getting a guaranteed additional super attack.
Yeah, I think for a lot of my Super Battle Road runs, and I'm sure you experienced the same thing, the initial hurdle was getting the ball rolling, right? Like getting your momentum going, getting your rotations all set. So having a better base to begin with will give you a lot more to work with in terms of like durability, potency in offense, and things like that. So if he has a stronger defensive set to begin with, then if the Gotenks were to lower some enemy's attack and then you seal them with this Gohanks, getting hit with that retribution normal slap, it wouldn't actually hurt you as much. So I feel like that will help your longevity, help you get the momentum going, and that's probably going to be the main thing with this TUR. And like you said, increasing the cap, which is probably not going too overboard with like a 200%, but like maybe 120, 140, something like that, I feel like would be a great passive, because it's kind of like it reminds me of the physical Is it the physical? Yeah, the physical Super Gotenks, Easy A from the Majin Buu saga. He also has a similar thing where like each super attack performed gives him X amount of stats up till I think like 100 or 200 or something like that. So like it's a steady growth. It's not immediate, but like over time eventually they can reach that cap and make them even more powerful, but it's not like a game-breaking powerful.
Yeah, exactly, because if they increase the cap, that's going to help them, I think, mainly in some of the longer events, which is where I would say they probably are the most lacking, because even fully stacked up, it's what, like 150% attack and defense, which is not bad, but obviously they are going to still be taking quite a bit of damage when we're talking about like the last couple of stages of an Infinite Dragon Ball history or the Legendary Goku event. So if they increase the cap, then obviously that's just going to make them work better in those longer events as well, because it might take you a little bit longer to fully max them out, but obviously you've got a long time in those events.
So obviously when talking about the Gohanks, you can't do that without mentioning Gotenks. And this guy, Super AGL, Ki plus 3, 70% across the board, causes supreme damage, lowers attack and defense, and then he's got the exact same passive as the Gohanks, attack and defense plus 70, attack and defense plus 20 with each super attack performed up to 80, launches an additional super attack, except this time if the enemy's super attack is sealed. So once again, I mean, is there really much need to go over this again? He's basically functioning the same way.
Yeah, the two cards basically are exactly the same. The only difference is the switch between lowering attack and defense and sealing between their passive and their super attack. So obviously they were designed to work together. They can work with other units as well on the fusion team, which I think is really good. The only thing I think we could see, which we haven't really mentioned yet, but would be interesting, because we talked about this a little bit in part 1 with the potential for units to change names because they change their form in some way, shape or form. One thing that I wouldn't say it lets them down not having it, but one thing that would definitely help them gel even more into the teams that they fit on is if they gave them TUR awakenings but actually made them go up to Super Saiyan, because then obviously they would pick up links like Super Saiyan, potentially Golden Warrior, which obviously a lot of the units on the teams that you're going to use them on have those links already. So their link set isn't bad, but obviously like most of the teams that they're on are going to have those Super Saiyan links on pretty much every unit. So even that in and of itself would be a buff for them, because it would be another link for them to activate with the other units on those teams.
That would also help because there's one thing, I don't know if you've thought this, but when you're trying to get this duo going, one of their passives will not be fully realized at the start, right? Because one person has to actually do the nerfing so that the other person can get the full benefit of their passive. So what you said about giving their TURs a different name would actually help kind of complete the circuit, right? So that you can kind of have like something going on each turn. I actually kind of like that, and it helps perpetuate their passives to complement each other over and over and over. Because I was just experiencing something like this with the Goten and the Trunks Super Saiyan TURs that we just had for the banner. They basically work exactly the same. So what's going to basically happen is one unit's not going to fully realize his full potential until the other one goes first, right? So you are missing a step, and having the TURs be different helps shores that up.
Because that's one of the reasons why the synergy between Gohunks and Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta is so good, because obviously he lowers enemies' attack by being on the rotation, which means Gohunks gets his guaranteed additional, he seals, and then obviously if this Gotenks is then on the next turn, the enemy's already sealed, so he gets his one. So like you said, the main issue is if they're both on the same rotation right at the start, and then you essentially have to pick which one you want to super attack multiple times, because the other one obviously isn't going to have their full passive active. So that would definitely help. And like we said in part 1, if they did give these guys awakenings and their names changed, they would potentially be featured on the banner. And so because the banners are guaranteed featured, even someone like me, I have both of these guys rainbowed. But if they awakened them and changed their names, then I wouldn't be mad about pulling extra copies of them, because then I can actually like build up the SSR versions. So that would be pretty cool.
Have we even seen Gohanks in any sort of form other than the card game?
No.
Okay. Because like
I don't know if because I don't know, even in the Heroes artwork and stuff that I've seen, I don't know if I've even actually seen a Super Saiyan version of Gohunks.
Yeah.
So I don't. It might not even actually exist in Heroes yet.
So as cool as that sounds, that may not even happen because it doesn't even exist yet.
Yeah, because Gotenks, obviously we've already talked about, in part 1 we talked about the older card, but obviously we do already have a Super Saiyan and Super Saiyan 3 adult Gotenks. Well, I guess they call it Teen Gotenks, but obviously this guy, whilst he's called Gotenks, Xeno is technically that same character. So he does have Super Saiyan forms in Heroes already, but I don't think the Gohunks does.
Let's move on to the next Xeno unit, another fusion, Vegex. So this is the third of the 3 fusions that a lot of people talk about on the Dragon Ball Heroes. Unfortunately, he does not have a counterpart. This guy does do some pretty good stuff on his own, though. STR type, Heat +2, 60% across the board. Infinitely stacks defense, causing supreme damage. Attack and defense +70. When performing a super attack, chance of performing critical hit with each super attack performed up to 35%. Launches an additional super attack when target enemy is in attack down or defense down status. So I guess actually you could say that he does complement the Gotenks.
Yeah.
So instead of using Gohunks, you would go Vegex. The only reason why I don't consider this guy part of the duo is just because he is a Potara fusion, whereas the other guys are fusions. So
yeah, so you're only really on the Time Travelers or Heroes teams can you actually run them two like as a combo. So,
yeah. So what would your build be for something like this in the TUR form?
So yeah, this is an interesting one for me because again, just like the other two, I think his kit is actually really good. I think he was quite underrated. I think people generally rated him as one of the worst out of the units that came out last year. Not necessarily saying he was bad, but if you look at the way his kit is set up, I think he's actually really good because I didn't rainbow this guy, but I think I pulled at least one dupe. So if you look at the way his passive is laid out, because he builds up the ability to crit all the way up to 35%, which is roughly the equivalent of having like 17.5 crit in the dupe system. If you pull dupes for this guy, you just give him a ton of additional.
Yeah.
Because not only does he infinitely stack defense, but then obviously getting those additionals builds up that crit chance. And so yeah, once he gets fully built up, he's got insane defense, 35% chance to crit. So yeah, he's potentially very good. I guess the main difference is when you compare him to Gotenks and Gohunks, he doesn't have that build up of attack and defense when supering. So whilst his defense will get super high because of the infinite stack, his attack doesn't really get raised at all. So even though when his passive is fully maxed out, he has a 35% chance to crit, his attack stat is not going to get any higher. So the thing I could see for him is definitely raising his base attack. They don't necessarily have to raise the attack and defense, but putting his attack up to at least 100%, and then plus obviously the TUR stats, I think that would be very good. They could, if they really wanted to, double down on sort of expanding what he does already. Like we said with the Gotenks and Gohunks passive, they could increase the cap of the chance to crit. Because can you imagine if it like could increase all the way up to like 50%? Because I mean, we have units in the game that have like a 50% crit chance built in. So I mean, that would be crazy. Because then yeah, especially if you wanted to really go ham on this guy and even use like skill orbs, you could build this guy up to be an insane high amount of additional. And then yeah, with that passive maxed out, he's going to be doing everything like pretty well.
Yeah,
so,
honestly, raising attack and defense is not outside the realm of possibility, especially now given that units like the Tech Ultimate Gohan exist. Like, cat's out of the bag. You know, raising attack and defense is part of the new meta, and it's not like raising attack and defense is even that broken to begin with, because you know this better than anyone, well, other than me. Like, doing long form events, when you're stacking defense versus stacking attack and defense, it's very different because your rate of growth is not the same. So it's not like it would be totally broken to give him an attack and defense raise, and combining that with a critical hit ratio, it's not like he's going to do a whole lot. So I feel like that would be okay. So giving him a stronger base passive and then giving him attack and defense for infinite stacking would be great. And also, if they don't want to do that, why not? I don't know if this has actually been done, but is there such a thing as a unit that temporarily stacks one stat but then permanently stacks another? there a unit that does that?
I don't know if there is one actually. I know what you mean. So it'd be like where his passive, where his thing now says raises defense, and it's like the infinite thing. It would be like raises defense, causes supreme damage, and raises attack by 30% for 2 turns or
Yeah.
one. Well, it wouldn't be 2 turns; it'd be 1 or 3. But yeah, I don't know if there's a unit that does that. Yeah, that could definitely be an interesting. Because one thing I do think for this guy, if they're going to give him an awakening, they definitely need to not be scared of making him too good. Because when you think about fusion with the Gotenks and Gohanks, fusion can be quite a limited category in terms of the options that you have to use. Whereas Potara is kind of the opposite. Like Potara just has so many top tier units, so many LRs. That sometimes I feel like this guy potentially wouldn't get a look in on the team build unless they do make him really good. So I think if they awaken him and only make him sort of mediocre, then people are still just not going to bother using him. So I definitely think they could do something like that just to make him actually a unit that you want to use on that team. Because I don't know about you, but I think his design's really cool. I think he looks awesome. So.
Here's a dangerous question. Do you think they would dare give this unit a counter?
Oh, that'd be so good.
Because he is half of what makes Vegito, right?
Yeah.
So is he the countering portion of the Vegito? You know?
I mean, I guess technically not every Vegito has counters, but I mean, I would like to see it. I mean,
Would
they
they
gave the
dare
Great
do that?
Saiyaman 3 counters, so why not?
That'd be pretty cool. All right, let's move on to the next unit, which is the Vegeta Beyond Battle Space and Time Vegeta Xeno. Funny story about this unit before we talk about it. This unit I thought had a farmable SA, and I'll never forget this. This was during the 5-year Dragon Ball Super Broly story event.
Yeah.
I farmed out the Coat Vegeta, about 25 copies. Why?
Oh,
because they look the same. And so,
They
like,
do.
after I farmed about 25 copies, I tried to infuse all those units into this guy. Couldn't do it, and I couldn't look at my phone for like a day. I was so ashamed of myself.
So yeah, this is Xeno Vegeta.
Yeah,
I
Xeno
will
Vegeta.
say though, props to you for doing Vegeta before Goku, the man of culture.
Oh, dude, Vegeta's #1.
Oh yes.
That is clear. Vegeta's family key +3, 90% across the board. Raises defense, causes supreme damage. Attack and defense +77%. Vegeta's family category allies key +2, attack and defense +30. Pretty obvious what the leader skill would be boosted to with the TUR, but what else can we see from this guy?
So I want to say shout out to this guy because you know when they bring out Goku and Vegeta cards who are essentially just the same card but kind of like the opposite of each other. The Goku card is normally always better, but I think it would be difficult to argue that the Vegeta card is the better out of them because obviously he has the infinite stacking of defense. So obviously on a short form event, you're not going to be able to stack it that much, but even so, every time you super attack, you're raising your defense. And on a long form event, he's going to be one of those units that can get up to the level where even though he's floating in the 3rd spot to be a support unit, he's not going to be taking a ton of damage. Obviously, if he's been off rotation, he might still be at a point where he takes a fair amount of damage from a super attack. But for support units, being able to tank normal hits fairly well in those hard events is obviously a big bonus. Whereas, I mean, we're going to talk about him in more detail in a sec, but the Goku only raises attack. So as you get further into those harder events, he can get absolutely destroyed. So in terms of an awakening, it'd be interesting. I don't know if they will change the super. The big thing about this guy I've noticed from when I've used him is, like we were kind of saying about the Vegex, is because he doesn't raise his attack in any way. When you get to the end of a run on, say, the Legendary Goku event, he can be tanking for double digits, but he basically does no damage. So I don't know, because they like to keep the Goku and Vegeta cards that they design like this quite like opposites of each other. I don't think they would give both of them the raise attack and defense. So I think the big thing they need to do for him is increase his attack in his passive. Again, they don't necessarily have to raise the attack and defense, just the attack, because obviously he's going to be stacking his defense afterwards. And then they could give him some sort of built-in ability to crit or additional. We've seen, like, that's the thing is support units nowadays, they sometimes do give them some of those crazy abilities. I mean, you look at the Super Saiyan Gohan from the World Tournament that we just got the Awakening for on Global. He's like probably one of the best super type support units in the whole game, and he's just a support unit. So that would be kind of interesting. They want to shore up their weaknesses. So because this guy already stacks his defense, maybe give him some built-in ability to crit. And then for the Goku, you could give him like a built-in ability to dodge, maybe, or reduce damage.
Yeah, I mean, I would honestly not mind them just amplifying everything that he does right now, because this is a very unique unit. He's a Vegeta who really supports, right? So if this guy just becomes a 120 sub lead for Vegeta's family, raises defense either by 1 or by 2, so greatly raises defense. They up his base passive, and then just make his support even more powerful. Maybe 40%, 50%. We don't see that too often, so
yeah, maybe I think because he does attack and defense, I think maybe 35. I don't know if we would see higher than 40, but I mean either way, because both of these units are good because you know the Goku family and Vegeta family teams are strong teams to use. So having a unit that is just giving that big support is obviously very good. So even if they just bumped it up to 35%, that's still going to be benefiting the team even more.
Yeah.
So.
And while you were mentioning it, we'll just quickly gloss over this. The Goku. So the same thing, Xeno Goku. Goku's family key plus 39%, raises attack. So how would you change this guy? I mean, you already mentioned it.
Yeah, so that's, like I said, I think they should shore up their weaknesses. So this guy, I would never use him on my Goku family team in a long event, because when you get near the end, he just gets destroyed. I did a showcase of someone on the Goku family team taking on one of the Infinite Dragon Ball history stages, and as it got near to the end of the video, this guy was taking like 80 or 90k from normal attacks. So give him some sort of built-in damage mitigation or dodge, which, like I said, because of the Gohan, I wouldn't say that's unheard of. I mean, that Gohan is insanely good defensively whilst being an incredibly strong support unit. So just like you said, they could increase the raises attack to maybe greatly raises attack, buff his basic stats, buff the support maybe up to 35%, and then yeah, just give him like, even if it's like 20%, just give him some sort of like damage mitigation. And then even though it doesn't make him a top tier unit for some of those harder events, it just means that he's not going to immediately get you killed if there's no slot on the turn where you can't put him like to hide him from attacks. So one thing I did want to say about these two units, because people mention it all the time in comments, on tweets, people I've seen mentioning it on the podcast. One thing, if they do awaken these guys, I do not see them awakening them to Super Saiyan 4. I think they are going to keep the Xeno Super Saiyan 4s as their own thing. Obviously, they're not releasing them during this celebration that we know of, because obviously, without going off on a whole other tangent, Goresh has talked about there's the possibility that we could get 2 banners and one be a Dokkan Fest, so maybe we could see the Xeno Super Saiyan 4s there. But I feel like they'll save them for their own cards, because when they awaken units, they always expand on the kit that they already have, and these guys are fundamentally support units. So I think it'd be weird to have like Super Saiyan 4s, who we all kind of, you know, relate to being big powerhouse units, just being support units. But I will say the same thing that I said for Gohunks and Gotenks. If they awakened them and then made them up to the Super Saiyan form, then obviously that just helps out the teams even more, because it gives them those extra links that the other units on the team are going to have. So I don't know what you think about that possibility.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point, because giving them the Super Saiyan 4 property just fundamentally changes their identity. So
yeah,
integrating that into this build that's already established would be very unusual. So I feel like, yeah, having a Xeno Goku at a normal level, Xeno Goku to Super Saiyan 3, and then Xeno Goku to Super Saiyan 4, that's the best way to go. Don't have them kind of converge and be the same thing.
Yeah. Because you think if they awaken them to Super Saiyan 3s, if they do eventually release the Xeno Super Saiyan 4s, imagine having them all on the same team. The Xeno Super Saiyan 4, the Xeno Super Saiyan 3, and then these guys to support, but they're also Super Saiyan, so they have like Super Saiyan and Golden Warrior as links. Like that setup would be very, very good.
And with that, I mean, Super Saiyan 4, when we talk about Dragon Ball Heroes, Super Saiyan 4 always comes up. And as we mentioned at the beginning, Super Saiyan 4 is on the horizon, so before that banner shows up, before the dual Dokkan Fest prediction comes to 100% accuracy, we did want to take some time to talk about some of these units that are going to be getting those possible TURs in this upcoming banner. So thank you so much, Masningen, for being here. Once again, I will link his part of this discussion piece in the description below. We are so excited for this that we just had to talk about it. And we are also going to be collabing on this. So, might as well get that going early too. So thank you, Masningen.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that. I think we were talking about it last night on my stream, and I mentioned it then to try and get people excited. Because, yeah, we collab summoned on the last Heroes banner, so I'm very excited to be doing that again.
This will be a grand tradition for years to come. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned, and always remember to Dokkan responsibly. Dragon Ball Heroes!
Have a good one.